Welcome to the all-important Lesson 2 of BibleTech401, Advanced Tools for Bible Study and Teaching. Advanced digital tools, I should say, although the conceptual tools, skill and knowledge in exegesis, that is more important than these digital tools. Nonetheless, these are the tools that I've worked hard to gather over time and learn how to use. We're in Lesson 2 out of 10, and a little reminder to those who are supporters at the $25 a month level on YouTube or Patreon. A couple reminders actually. I am planning to release one lesson a week on Fridays, Lord willing. My regular videos come out on Thursdays, and those will also, Lord willing, continue. But these videos I will work on concurrently. That's about the only way I can get them done. Doing them in one big chunk just proved to be way too hard for me amidst the other things that I'm doing. I really appreciate your support because although, yes, you're buying something, you're buying access to a course, that's not really the way I see it. I see it as those who are interested in the kind of Bible nerdy work that I do, supporting me and making it possible. I never want, Lord willing, to stop making the weekly videos that are free for everyone, but the extra effort that it takes to make these courses, some of which will include study questions, not this one, it's just not the nature of this course. That is extra effort that, and I appreciate that you have not muzzled this ox. I appreciate those many who have signed up at the $25 a month level. One more little note about that. I've noticed that some people are paying like $34 a month or so at Patreon, but they're at the $25 a month level. That's because you signed up on your phone. And actually, if you will unsign up and sign up on the web, then Apple doesn't take a cut. Patreon has had to adjust to the cut that Apple is trying to take. And it's kind of left creators unsure what to do. I don't want that extra money going to Apple personally, despite how much I appreciate my Apple products. Give that money to a more worthy cause, somebody else who needs it. And if you'll just support me on YouTube or on Patreon through the web, then you can pay less. Okay, now this is, to me, I don't know, what's the most exciting lesson in this course? This might be it. Raycast being used to control Logos Bible software. Let me just demonstrate real quickly the kinds of things that I'm doing in Logos through Raycast day in and day out. I've been wanting to do this for years and years until I finally was able to do it, some in Alfred and now better in Raycast. Watch this. If I want to open up the ESV to Genesis 3:17, I can type OESV for Open ESV, then tab, then Genesis 3 space 17, and bam, I'm there. Let's say I wanted to search the ESV for God is love. It's SESV space God is love. You know, I couldn't slow this down. Like I just did it instinctively because it's just part of my muscle memory now. SESV tab, God is love, bam. There's a search. If I want to search for exactly, in fact, I got that a little bit wrong, SESVS, and it still figured out what I was doing. Raycast figured it out. I can put it in quotes, and that will find exactly the phrase, God is love. You know, I found more results, 150 results in 38 verses for God is love, because I am able to find anything in the ESV that includes those words, but I only found 2 results in 2 verses for exactly the phrase, God is love. Can you already see how useful this is? I can open up BDAG to an entry, something like agape, and I can actually, because I've already made a shortcut, type AGAPH, it'll spit out agape. That's actually from my text replacements in macOS and that are shared with iOS, and it should, now why did this happen? Honestly, actually, I do not know why it just opened to Cline. Let's try the English. Let's try agapo. And actually, I'll just type in Greek characters, Greek polytonic, agapo. Oh, there we go. That worked. Don't ask me to explain. It's like look ma, no hands, and I crash. Sorry. That one works most of the time. There's a bunch of other things that I can call up. I can open the NLT to any passage, John 1:1. I can search my whole library with SLL for Search Logos Library. And I can go ahead and search for Babink. And although that opened in a separate window, here are all my search results. I have a number of Babink books, most of which I have yet to read, and I feel bad about that. Don't get logos if you feel too guilty about books you haven't read, because you'll never read them all. That's not really the point of having a library necessarily. The point is having those resources available when you need them. I can also open up the Bible Word Study tool to any word that I want to study, such as agape, and bam, I'm there. One I find I'm constantly using is open up the TextComparison tool, OTC, and I open it up to whatever passage I happen to be studying. Let's just say Ruth 1:1, and there is my text comparison window listing out all of the translations that I commonly check, because that's something I've previously set up in Logos. And I'll show you just one more before I show you how to do this. I can search my top Bibles with STB for Search Top Bibles. And sure enough, let's search Jesus Wept. Well, that's going to be easy. And it searches not just the ESV, but the King James, NIV, CSB, and NASB 1995. By the way, I have established that list of top Bibles by going into my library, clicking Prioritize Books, and there are those top 5 you see. Okay, so how can you do this? Well, first you got to get Raycast. And I go ahead and pay for the second tier of service. I like having the ability to use Raycast to chat with AI, and I pay a little extra for that. The pro version that I use, and I don't even know if I have a referral code. If I do, I'll stick it in the description. I can't remember. I just really love Raycast, and I don't care if you use my referral code or not. It's something every Mac user should have. By the way, I will talk about how to do this in Windows at the end of the video. So Windows users out there, you're not being left to dry. The kinds of things that I'm doing here, you can absolutely do on your own. But I'm going to assume that you can install a Mac app. If you're going to use Raycast, you can install Mac apps. So you go out and install Raycast, and now what do? Well, for one thing, let me point out that Raycast has way more uses than just controlling logos. I use it as an app launcher for everything. I can set keyboard shortcuts through it to pull up any of those apps. I can set keyboard shortcuts to open up my messages. I can set keyboard shortcuts for me to search Amazon or search all kinds of websites. Practically anything you can imagine Raycast can do. I have another video coming out on Raycast. That'll be the next video where I talk through some of the things that I do. Some of them will not be strictly Bible study related. Hey, it's just because I love Raycast and want to talk about it. But when it comes to logos, it really is easy. Once you have it installed, you can go to a file that I'm going to share with you. I'm going to have a Dropbox link in the description, and you're actually going to download a file, and you're going to put it in some place that's safe. I like having all my files in Dropbox. You could use Google Drive, you could use OneDrive, you could use Box.com if that still exists. Anywhere that's safe. And then you will see in the file a particular README file that we'll go over in a second. Let me show you, however, the link that you can use to download these files. And I'll actually use Raycast, which I used to shorten the link, by the way. I have a bit.ly URL shortener in Raycast. I will also use it to show large text on the screen. There we go. That is the link that you can use to go to my live Dropbox folder where I have all of the files that I'm about to show you. Instead, this is my actual folder, and whenever you click on this, this might be years from now, I plan to keep it here, and you'll be able to download the latest version of the scripts that I use. They haven't changed much for me in quite some time. I got a stable set of them, along with other image files that will show you, for example, the cover of the NASB or the ESV, if that's what you're searching. All this work has been done for you, but I'm going to show you what you have to do. Okay, so you download the file, and then you end up with something a little like this. I'm going to use Raycast to resize this window to an appropriate size. And let me pull this over so you can see. Okay, here are all the files. Don't be scared by this. Let me explain the very most basic element of what is going on. If I open up this file, I do it in VS Code, which is my standard text editor for all kinds of stuff. I'm not quite nerdy enough to be able to use this for all its intended purposes, but I do love the find and replace aspects that we'll cover in another video on regular expressions. Here's the file. It might look like a bunch of gobbledygook to you, but I want to show you the key element. It's right down here. It's open, and then this text, logos res, that's logos resource, ESV, semicolon, ref equals BibleESV, and then this little element is going to get filled in by the script. Let me do the same with, yeah, same thing here. So basically, Raycast is going to send to Logos this command, and it's going to replace whatever's here with whatever you type. So if it's OpenCSB, John 1:1, it's going to replace this with the resource address for John 1:1. Okay, why does that work? Well, I'm so glad you asked. It's because if I'm in the ESV and I go, and by the way, the location of this has changed recently, and I go to share, and then I go to copy link, I have just placed on the clipboard this, ref.ly logos res ESV. You'll recognize some of that information as the address that you saw in that text file. I can copy special, and I can copy a link URL that will take people to biblia.com. In any case, every single place in every single book and in practically all the tools is something to which you can copy a link. And that very powerful feature is what allows Raycast to direct you to the right place in Logos. Another one I use all the time is OPG for Open Passage Guide. And if I just go to John 1 in the Passage Guide, it happens that fast. How does it know where to go? Well, in this tab, after I've clicked on the three little dot menu, I can click Copy Location, and I have a link very much like the one that I showed you inside the text for the Raycast scripts. So you are able to add more scripts than I already have. But let me talk about the ones that I've already made for you. I will open up Raycast and then use the preferences to look at the extensions. And let me get this window to where you can see it. Let me close down my face a little bit, make it a little smaller so you can see. And if I just type Logos, I can not only open Logos, which by the way I do through Raycast with hyperkey L. This is I'll talk about this in the Raycast video, but I've actually mapped caps lock, which I hardly ever use, to hyperkey. And then I launch so many apps and folders with hyperkey and other shortcuts that I get through Raycast. I can search Logos through, that's actually searching the website through a keyword that I'll talk about in another video. But I'm talking about script commands down here. Script commands are what I am interested in. What you're going to do in order to install that directory, you're actually going to go into script commands in the preferences for Raycast, and you're going to click Add Directories, and then you're going to find whatever that directory is where you've saved all those scripts that I shared with you. Mine is right here. Let me pull it over and make it the right size. And you'll be able to see here mine is. Here they all are. As long as Raycast knows where they are, it's going to have access to all of those little scripts, and here they are. So I showed you the OpenESV file. Where did it go? Where did it go? There it is, right there. That's how it shows up. And then here's the only other thing you have to do. And you can do this in whatever way makes sense to you. You go into the alias and you type OESV. That is what makes sense to me. I'm telling a sentence, giving it a command, an imperative. Open ESV. So I do OESV. If I'm telling it to search the ESV, then I want SESV. And I have, of course, SKJV and SLL for Search Logos Library, and SMEV, SMSG. You're absolutely free to use my shortcuts or to make your own, and maybe you want the shortcuts to be longer because you don't remember little acronyms like that. I don't care, it's fine. I actually did something for you BibleWorks users out there that you'll love. I did apostrophe for search for a particular string in my top Bibles. Let me just show you what that looks like if I use an apostrophe like good old BibleWorks used to do, and I search for Jesus wept. It's going to find exactly those words. Right, I put it in quotation marks. Likewise, for you BibleWorks users out there, though I have not done this, you could set it up so that with the period, you search Jesus wept, just like in BibleWorks, and it would search for those words, but not necessarily in that order, just verses including them. That's phenomenal. Those of you who have BibleWorks keyboard shortcuts baked into your muscle memory over 20 plus years, like I really still do. Although I don't use these anymore, I've trained myself to use Logos instead through Raycast. You could do it. You could set up some of the most important BibleWorks searches that you just do in your sleep, and you could do it using Raycast with these scripts. Okay, so let me go back into my preferences for Raycast, and let's just look at some of those script commands. Look at the ones I have. I have Open BDAG, Open BHS, Open Bible Word Study. And you know what? I didn't even add a shortcut for that, and it figured out what I wanted to do, but I'm going to add that right now. And these aliases you have to add yourself, but I've included all these scripts and all these little images so that when you do open the CEB, you'll see a little cover of it, which I did get from Logos, and therefore I'm not selling this. I'm giving you access to them as a bonus for those of you who are taking this course. That means you are free to share it with others. There's no copyright or anything like that. This is just a great way for using Logos, and it's better than the one I talked about a couple of years ago using Alfred. Raycast is better than Alfred, and that's why. There's just so much possibility in Raycast. I've got all these translations I can open. I do have other scripts outside Logos, like Open, you know what? I think I have Open Merriam-Webster. I think that is actually Logos. Let me check that. Yes, it is. So I'm going to make that OMW. I've got all the major translations, including the NIV and the NIV 84, and I specify the difference by typing ONIV or typing ONIV 84. One thing I'm constantly doing is go to OLD, open the Latin dictionary. Let me just do that. So if I search for habitus, bam. I love the Oxford Latin Dictionary. I'm using it constantly. Let's search again for Logos and look at some more of those scripts. Yeah, I think you get the idea now. I can search Scrivener's TR. I can search the SBLGNT. I can search Top Bibles. I can search the whole Logos library. I can search all resources, not just the books and library. I can search all resources exact, although I'm not using that now. By the way, I should say that these scripts were put together originally by my good friend Chris Pennington, who has a great YouTube channel, I assume. I just am not quite nerdy enough to watch it. It's all about programming stuff. He's a brilliant, brilliant guy and a gracious guy, an assistant pastor of some kind at his church. Out there in Utah, I helped him get a job at Logos years ago, a part-time job, and as far as I know, he's still doing it. He's an amazing guy, and he helped me get this going, and I just could not be happier. Sermon Manager, Passage Guide, Oxford Latin Dictionary. I've showed you pretty much all the stuff that I'm doing. And I'm wondering, how much are you doing in Logos that you can't do in Raycast? Well, of course, you're going to go into Bibles like the NLT here, and you're going to click on words, and you're going to go to the Bible Word Study. That's fine, like we talked about doing in the previous lesson on Logos Basics. But isn't it true that a ton of what you're doing in Logos is opening up Bibles and opening up tools and opening up commentaries? Why would you not want to use a keyboard shortcut? You know, if you just dismiss keyboard shortcuts, you know, I probably ought to give you your money back. This course probably isn't for you. That's not quite true. I'm speaking tongue-in-cheek because I think that there will be elements of the course that are still useful for you. But I absolutely love keyboard shortcuts. And I find the ones that I actually use to get so quickly into my muscle memory that it's worth whatever time it took to set them up and then to learn them. And now, whereas in the past, I got so frustrated because if I had to open up a Bible, I'd have to click library, I'd have to click inside the search bar and type ESV, then I'd have to click on it, then I'd have to click here, and then I could type John 3:16. That's good enough. And if I am in an active Bible, I can hit Command G and it'll go up to that resource locator bar. But all of that is too much when all I have to do is type OESV in Raycast, which I invoke with Command Space, by the way, Command Space for Raycast, and then I can go wherever I want, Ruth 3:14. Yes, that is just amazing to me. Can you see why I'm gaga over this? I want my tools to work for me quickly so that I can spend less time doing the digital equivalent of flipping pages and more time doing the digital equivalent of reading pages. That's what Raycast does for me in Logos. And I can never go back. I am very frustrated when I use the web app for that reason. I just don't use the web app, although it's really neat. And, in general, I'm glad that the web app exists and it's good to have as a backup. If I'm on someone else's computer, I can still get to resources. But I use the desktop app in Logos because I want to be able to get around quickly. I want all the tools that Logos provides for me. I do plan to do a whole course on Logos in time to come. Lord willing, this year, I'm going to keep the courses coming out. Hopefully get more people supporting me at that $25 a month level. If you need support on Raycast, I can't really offer it. I do try to answer comments, however, and on Patreon and YouTube, I will do my best, but I'm going to ask those of you who are also nerdy to try to help out with answering some of those comments. I think people are going to have some difficulty. And now I promised that you could use Windows to do this as well, and the way to do it is with Flow Launcher. And my good friend, the brilliant Phil Brown, who's part of the Bible Faculty Summit Committee, and did Phil attend this one? I sure feel like he did. And so he's in this picture somewhere, although I'm not spotting him right now. Anyway, Phil is down here in this picture. Here he is. He's right there. He showed that you can use Flow Launcher to do this. Let me just show you briefly what he said. Here's good old Phil. He was able to get Flow Launcher PC to do the same things I'm doing with Raycast and Alfred. You download and install Flow Launcher. You Alt-space to open the command line, like I use Command Space. You type the settings and you choose Settings to tweak the Flow Launcher settings. You choose the Plugins tab on the left. Scroll down to Web Searches, click Add at the bottom. You fill in the data, Logos LSB Bible Search. You can use an icon. You can use the ones that I provided. And then you use the URLs that you will grab from those files. And let me show you briefly how this is going to work. This is going to be the only hard part. You've got to go into these files that I showed you earlier, all right? And let's grab the OpenESV one, and let me just get this at the right size for you. Okay, so you open up OpenESV, and then you're going to take this little command right here, all right, copy it, and then you're going to do something very much like this little command. You're going to look at what I've put in here at the bottom of the file, and you're going to edit it according to this model. Okay, so let me pull this over. You're basically going to remove the quotation marks and the word open, and you're going to replace the $1 with Q inside curly brackets. Then you're going to copy all that, and he says that's what you use for the URL. You'll give it an action keyword. You'll check enabled, very much like Raycast. You'll click confirm, and then you can try it out. Alt-space, and then type LSB space ROM space 8 space 1 without quotes. And Viola, as one of my children once said, you have a command line like BibleWorks for Logos in Windows. Wow, that's great. I wish I could do a video of that. I actually tried to do a video, but I do not have easy access to a Windows computer that can run it. I have BibleWorks still running in an Azure instance of like Windows NT or something, but Flow Launcher doesn't run on Windows NT. So I couldn't do it for you. But that's how you do it on Mac and on Windows. Are you gaga like I am? Are you thankful for this? This could change your life. You who use BibleWorks out there and got used to it, I urge you to put the time in to learn Logos. It really isn't that different. And then I urge you to put the time in to do what I've done here so that you can run Logos from the command line like you're used to running BibleWorks. I think you will thank me. And I hope you'll come back for the next lesson in this BibleTech 401 series, where I talk in more detail about how I use Raycast to control my computer.